In this video, I'll be running through how we improved CAC for a D2C brand, which allowed us to decrease their cash conversion cycle. Now, this directly ties into our consulting framework, which is that you want to be decreasing, shortening your cash conversion cycle to enable rapid growth. Firstly, here's the numbers. So before we started working with this brand, their average blended CAC was sitting at $27.80. After working with them over the course of the first 8 months, we were sitting at $20.31. So we managed to decrease this quite rapidly over the course of the first few months. As of recent, we've managed to get this all the way down to $15.43, and we'll be talking about in a second exactly how we actually achieved that. Now, exactly what this did to their cash conversion cycle was we modeled out their current situation with the base assumptions of inventory buys, marketing budgets continuing, as well as EBITDA remaining static. Now, this is what it was producing. They were negative cash flowing, in fact, negative EBITDA, $10,500 per month. Now, how were they even sustaining this? The way that they were sustaining this is because they also had an in-person store. All of the accounting is done in the 1.0 account. So it's very hard to delineate, is the online profitable or is the in-store profitable? What's actually driving the profits of the company? And that's why we always recommend if you do have an in-person store that you separate them out at least into 2 different accounting reports so that you can get an understanding of the profitability of each separate entity is how you can conceptualize it. What we figured out is that they were incredibly unprofitable and this needed to be fixed quite quickly. So as we came in and improved CAC, right away EBITDA became positive and they actually started cash flowing about $33,000 per month. And then quickly this turned into $60,000 in EBITDA. So completely changing the direction of the cash conversion cycle for this brand. You can see their ending cash position over a 12-month period now sits at 525 comparative to negative 50,000 in this instance. So how was this achieved? Well, there was actually 2 jumps in achieving a better CAC. The first one was when we pulled CAC down from $28 to $20.31. How was this achieved? This is actually going to be really simple and basic, to be completely honest. Number one, it was that we cut spend out of low-performing campaigns. There are a lot of brand awareness campaigns going on. There was a lot of search campaigns going on, which generally don't drive high ROI within the context of e-com. We cut those out, immediately redistributed budgets to high-performing campaign types. Number 2 is we refined the location targeting down. This was an interesting one. They were getting way better performance on the geographic location surrounding their in-person store. And we figured this out pretty quickly. And so it made a lot of sense if we wanted to drop blended CAC to optimize for just that geolocation, with the added benefit that these users, even if they might not purchase online, they might go into store. And we found that to be the case quite a bit as well. So we refined the location targeting down. Number 3 is that we implemented a testing framework on Meta. Previously, they were just grabbing random ads, throwing them up, hoping for the best. We actually implemented a structured testing framework there. And number 4 is that we consolidated the account structure on Google. There was hyper-segmentation across the entire account structure with no valid reasoning as to why. And so through consolidation, we consolidated conversion data, enabling better customer modeling, which improved performance. Now, as of recent, how do we get this next jump? In fact, a jump that I actually wasn't confident in us achieving. Getting down to a $15 blended CAC on a brand like this is incredibly difficult. Just to run the math for you, if we're driving clicks for $1, that means we need to be converting every 15 users, which is a conversion rate off the top of my head of about 4 to 5%, which is a ridiculous position to get a brand into. These are honestly crazy results. And there's 2 ways that we did it. Number 1 is we started doing incrementality testing across Meta and Google. We wanted to get a better understanding of, is Meta driving cold conversions or is it Google? You really can't tell these days looking in isolation at the platforms, considering that they both take attribution for almost everything. And so it was through structured incrementality testing where we increased budgets on Meta for a consistent amount of time, kept all other variables constant, and measured the difference in blended CAC, new customer acquisition, as well as top line revenue. And then we dropped it and then did the same for Google. We were able to figure out that Meta wasn't driving incremental revenue, at least profitable incremental revenue. We could have done lift tests, but we decided against it as it isn't a large enough ad account. And so then we looked towards Google and we found that Google was driving incremental profitability. And so we started to redistribute over time funds out of Facebook over to Google. And we ended up in a position where we dropped average CPAs from $20 down to $15. from just doing that incrementality testing, which just goes to show how important it is to do this on a regular basis. Number 2 is we refined to high converting SKUs. There were just a lot of SKUs that were running. In fact, this brand has, I believe, 15,000 plus SKUs. A lot of SKUs. A lot that just simply weren't converting well. And so we started going through another consolidation process. I think a lot of brands and marketers get tied into this position where they think that pushing everything is better because it means more volume. If we're pushing every single product, then we have more opportunity to sell, and therefore we're going to sell more and it's going to be more efficient. But in a lot of instances, it just doesn't make sense to push majority of SKUs, particularly if you have more than 1,000. And so consolidation here also allowed us to gain better efficiencies in the acquisition strategy on marketing, which allowed us to drop that blended CAC, which repositioned this brand from being in a negative $50,000 bank position within a 12-month period to now being in a positive $500,000 bank position within a 12-month period.